Happy New Year, folks! My name is Aqua and I am the organizer of the 4 Power 2 Balance Cup. And I also casted like the first 3 games because, yeah, I didn't had casters back then. Yeah, this was all part of the journey and whew, what a journey this was. It really feels like I just created some esport in Sins of the Solar Empire 2 out of thin air and it worked pretty damn well. So, a big shout out and thank you for all the participants and also a big thanks for all the casters because, yeah, without those casters, we wouldn't have that much to watch. I was really happy when Yoha started to enjoy the casting, and I was even happier when BioWar came up to me and says, "Hey, I cast as many as you want." And then Karis Legacy also came up to me and says, "Hey, I cast as many as you want." And now we got a lot of them casted, and I really like both of their styles. Also, thanks to Aetaros, who was a neutral entity and wanted to cast the last game but couldn't because he can't roll back the version. So Ace got his shot at casting at least 1 game. I know he wanted to cast a lot more, but yeah, thanks to those 2 guys too. And yeah, of course, thanks to all those players once again, because without players and teams, we wouldn't have a tournament at all. So yeah, it feels like we created esport out of thin air, and every move I make, every step I take, I have the feeling I've been watched because it was just not, hey, I create a tournament, here play. It was like, yeah, this is the first tournament of the series, so everyone has their eyes on me, and every time I play a map that isn't or that wasn't part of the old map pool, they were like, yeah, is this a new map for the next tournament? So I am here to, yeah, discuss, to make things clear, to invite you to give me feedback, and let's start. So, first of all, one of the absolute core values of the 4 Power 2 Balance series, the map pool. I got lots of feedback and a lot of skepticism regarding the map pool. After a lot of those feedback, I was kinda insecure about the map pool too, but all in all, I think, yeah, it served the purpose really, really well. Like, a lot better than I expected it. And those 5 maps, they will stay. They did an exceptional good job. So the first map is Razor's Edge, and also probably the spiciest one because every player only has 3 guaranteed colonies, and even those are under heavy fire. So yeah, hate it or love it, but I much rather have a map that people hate than a map where people have a neutral feeling towards. So yeah, this godforsaken map, Razor's Edge. This is one of those maps where you need to know what's going on and what's important. You have a really small map. Every player gets like 3 colonies and that's it, and then they fight over something in the middle. And you also have a really short rush distance, and with the uniqueness of Vasari and Sins 2, this leads to really interesting decisions because on one hand Vasari can really pressure the Vulcan with 3 capitals if they start in the suicide position. On the other hand, they can decide to does not do that. So yeah, we saw a lot of interesting decisions regarding which player gets which planet, which asteroid, and who's building what, and who's defending where. So I really think this map served really well in this team versus team environment. It's a bit tougher when you play it public because people don't actually know it. And this is one of the reasons why I started the tournament, because I want to make things more transparent and want to show how professional teams play this map. And the public games on Razor's Edge I played after the tournament were a lot better. It's still one of those maps where I think a tournament version would be good, with like one extra moon or asteroid for each player, and also with the minor factions being more part of the center. In the version where the tournament started, the raids were a bit bigger and only one side had access to the raids of the site. So it was a little imbalance here and there, but after all, the raids didn't really matter. I saw some in one game, but it was more like, okay, this is your death push and not something OP we are abusing. You already lost, we just finish faster now. The game is mostly decided by fleets and early aggression and who keeps what planet is in part of what team. So yeah, I think the map overall served the purpose really well. Also, the best game I had in this tournament was on this map, and sadly this was the one which didn't get casted. So I'm a bit you know what I mean. Okay, let's go to the next map. Foreign Invasion. Foreign Invasion is also one of those maps where I'm like, yeah, if we get a tournament version with, I don't know, a moon for the middle player, another astro for the side players, it would have been a bit more balanced layout, but yeah, as it is, it's still a good map. It's a medium-sized 3v3 map, and yeah, a lot of players still play this map really aggressive with good success. I kinda miss getting an easy way to the center player, but with this 2 lanes and good coordinated teams, it worked out really well. And regarding certain imbalances, there is this pirate base in the center that is just attacking, I think, one moon and one Terran planet, and it's always attacking the ones from the lobby creator, so the team that is in the top of the lobby. So there's this little imbalance, but I've seen the games, and one time it was beneficial for the attacker and one time it was beneficial for the defender, because yeah, whoever just got to colonize that moon that is getting attacked by the pirates, but yeah, still not really what you're looking for. Maybe a little change would be to make the gas giant some Aluxian, so both sides are getting attacked at the same time. That would be like really cool. The map would be fine if we just get another aggressive race on there. And yeah, I really like the Sins 2 version of it. It really makes sense in a lot of spaces. One last thing I noticed on this map is that those relics on those dead asteroids became more and more interesting throughout the tournament for the tech players, because yeah, getting a Mother to high level was a big deal, and stealing relics from the opponent's team was a good way to do this. Another map where the relics played a big part was Crossfire, because they were on those spots you can get early if you just prioritize them. And yeah, if you clear the gas giant, get the relic, and also get the other relic, your capital is level 6. And that is quite impressive for not seeing an enemy for the whole time. There was that game from the Nameless Ones where the Sun Eaters, where Mathematico just went for the relic on the dead asteroid, then went for the relic on the gas giant, then cleared the gas giant, building nothing but kobolds, and then he got a Martha level 6 and didn't even see a single enemy unit outside of the obligatory scout. So this was quite impressive for getting a level 6 Martha this early without really any kind of contest. Outside of the relics and maybe some starting boni on the homeworlds, this map is a low variance map of the tournament. You can't get lucky spawns there, you can't get unlucky attacks there from some minor faction. It's just almost always the same. It's also a good map for benchmarking certain strategies. If you try a new capital ship or compare them, especially as an Advent player, this is quite important because you can start with the Rapture, you can start with Radiance, you can start with Alcyon and get similar results in time. You kinda start thinking, okay, what is the best capital ship in the matchup I'm playing? And sometimes it's Radiance if you want to taunt some frigates or value the anti-meta ability high. Sometimes it's a Halcyon if you want something to deal with missiles, and sometimes it's a Rapture if you want to steal some cruisers. So yeah, there's a lot of options, and if you want to test how fast you can expand, this is a really good map for it because you always get like 3 asteroids and a nice planet. See what you can get out of it, if the Arcane Opener is really that good, or if you should start with a Martha and greed out the level 6 missile barrage instead. Yeah. Other than being a great benchmark map, Crossfire has its uniqueness in terms of spawn position. Sometimes you fight over the asteroid and the Ferris planet with your opponent, and sometimes you fight over those relics on the dead asteroid and the gas giant with your opponents. And this uniqueness kinda makes Crossfire 2 maps in one, with the random factor on how you spawn. So this adds a little bit of variance. And the other thing that is interesting about Crossfire is that it often ends up with 2 1v1s rather than a 2v2. So what does that mean? This means as long as you manage to survive and your ally is crushing his opponent, you will probably win. Because at some point it becomes a 2v1. You can hate that, you can like that, and as I said earlier, I like having maps where people have a certain feeling instead of a neutral one. So yeah, this is Crossfire. And so let's step up the variety and go to Transdev. Transdev is also one of those maps where I think randomness can really screw you over because of this aggressive pirate miner faction in the center. The early game of this map plays out always the same. You kinda greed as much as possible because the rush distance to your opponents is gigantic. You have like 30 minutes no rush, and you can't really do anything about it because that's how the map layout and Sins is. And yeah, so you greed, and then you reach the center with the asteroids and the minor factions. So, and sometimes it happens that those pirates start attacking the asteroids that are the choke points to your empire. And now you have a little bit of trouble. Because on one hand you want to colonize further or whatever you want to aggress, but you can't because those pirates are pinning you down. You need at least like a capital ship and some defense to defend the pirates or build a starbase, and both of this really weakens your fleet. So you either lose out on your choke point asteroid, which is economically not a big deal, but from a defensive point of view, you kind of want those choke point asteroids, and or on the other hand, you can't join in with a full fleet because you need something to defend this, so you can't really contest the juicy planets in the middle. So you are basically pinned down to those choke point asteroids, and this is kind of problematic in a competitive environment where the opponent gets a lot more and better options than you. In many cases I say, yeah, you know, there is this minor faction, it is attacking you, and in many cases it's not a big deal, but here it really is. And it is becoming a really, really big deal when there's also a big relic on one of those asteroids. So because you can't clear it, like if two players are joining their forces there and there's a big relic and then the pirates attack, you can't really clear this asteroid, especially not with a really greedy opening. So this is the one issue I have with Transdev. Other than that, it's a really good and phenomenal grid map. You get those circling planets on the outside of the map, which is a really cool feature, and you get a really good economy from the start and barely any rush options. So yeah, it's a cool spin on Tins 2. But yeah, this pirates, they really can screw over your game plan. So regarding high variance maps, welcome to Scrambler. So what is the unique feature from Scrambler? Well, first of all, the rush distance is kinda similar to those Sins 1 maps. You can get to your opponent quite fast, but the economy you get is kinda similar to Transdev. Okay, slightly a little bit less, but still similar to Transdev and other Sins 2 maps. So you can get really great stuff and a lot of income and a lot of tech. So Scrambler always has this weird thing that you either have a game that is like 20, 30, 40 minutes or a game that goes far over an hour. It all kinda depends on how the first engagement is looking, and sometimes the game is decided there, and sometimes it's not, and the borders are becoming stale, and you kind of fight for those center planets and try to outmove your opponents once Scrambler gets into, scrambling things up. Because this map layout changes quite a bit. If you compare Scrambler 2 hours in, you wouldn't even recognize the map. And if you look at it 3 and 4 hours in, it looks totally different again. So it's a really, really dynamic map. And yeah, I really enjoy it. Another really big key feature of the map is the aggressive race in the middle that is basically blocking one path from the two players that are spawning there. So you can't really mindlessly rush and aggress over that side of the map because you have to deal with the aggressive minor faction. Sometimes it's pirates, and sometimes it's Alexa and the Aluxians doing their colonization thing there, so you even have to bomb the planet to get it. But in that case you can piece them, which costs 2 influence. It's just not optimal to rush over this side, so you can kinda rush over the others, but then you have a 2v2. And yeah, this map offers a lot of options on how to approach it. You can play it really greedy, you can play it really aggressive, and both styles can work. From my point of view, this is the best map in Sins 2 at all, from like the whole pool. It's really good for beginners, it's really good for competitive environment. And this map is also recommended by Frass. So those were the maps, and with the maps it was also kinda the format of the tournament to be 2v2 and 3v3 at the same time. It made things a little bit more complicated, even though I tried making things as easy as possible. This hybrid format wasn't really that well received at the beginning, because on one hand you always kinda have one player feeling left out while the other two are having fun and carrying the team. But overall, I think this was also a good idea and a great success, because Sins games tend to go a little bit longer, and with 3 different time zones, Europe, American and Chinese, scheduling matches was a bit tougher. And one of the core values of For Power to Balance is, make games happen, make it as accessible as possible, and this hybrid format really made it. In the first round, everyone was trying to get a cool 3v3 match on Foreign Invasion or Razor's Edge, but in the later rounds, people tend to get problems with scheduling, because somehow the Chinese teams are not playing against each other anymore, and now you need to find the time to play, and the option to just play the 2v2 round, or 2v2 rounds, in most cases it were 2, and maybe decided this way and play the 3v3 later, really came in handy. So I plan on keeping this 2v2 3v3 format. So for the next tournament, I already mentioned to increase the map pool. This is mentioned in the original post, this is mentioned in the preparation post, this is mentioned when people ask me in the Discord. And the next 3 maps that are getting included are Hammerfall, the home of Alexa and the Luxians. Great greedy 2v2 map. I wonder how this will turn out. And the FFA maps, Shuriken and Maelstrom. Shuriken is really well known for being the Sins 2 map of the alpha, because it was the only map that was available for a long time, and still one of the best maps throughout the whole early access phase. And Maelstrom is a typical Sins 1 Rebellion map for 3v3 or FFA, where you have a short rust distance but also quite a lot of planets to greet on it. So with the recent changes to the balance of raids, I truly believe those maps are less problematic now and will be a great addition to the map pool. How the drafting of the map pool will turn out exactly isn't decided yet. I also think about having things like 3 1v1s instead of a 3v3 map. But as it is right now, I don't want to make things more complicated than needed. Regarding the drafting, I feel like this was a bit undervalued in case of getting an advantage over your opponent. And I also believe the idea with the blind draft was a bit, stupid. There is a little bit of refinement needed there. And I also believe the Chinese guys never really got the idea of drafting maps at all. Also, drafting positions is kind of interesting because you can force certain matchups on certain lanes if you put the correct player in that lane. So to make this short, I try to keep it simple. The next point on the agenda is best of 3 versus best of 1. I personally felt a bit, down after my first game, which was the best of 1, and I lost that. And it felt like, no way to come back. There's no way I can win this tournament anymore. And it just was decided by, a best of 1. So I switched to best of 3 for round 2, which worked a lot better. And we also had really deciding 2-0s in the first 3 rounds. So, skill is definitely there. It's not just luck. Other than that, we also switched a bit with the scheduling because I wanted to get this done before Christmas, because then people won't have time for playing Sims and scheduling will be even harder. So I was planning on having the first round 2 weeks because people can still late join, and a lot of people were interested, but they really didn't make it. So it was 10 teams. I also offered them to be listed on the website so they can show they are officially a team and they will join soon. But I didn't get any positive response regarding that. So kinda sad on this. The second round worked really well with best of 3 and 2 weeks and the blind bands and all that scheduling and also the casting. And the third round was, okay, now we get things going, we know how to do things now. Can we do it in 1 week? And this was a really hasty schedule for everyone involved. So I instantly switched back to the 2 weeks of schedule for the last round. We don't have a lot of time issues afterwards because the tournament was just 4 rounds as it was planned. So the next 4 Power to Balance Cup will be in 2 weeks rounds, and you will also schedule your matches as you did in the past, because this increases the accessibility in general. I got quite a bit of feedback regarding how hard it is to schedule a match, but some people had to schedule with Chinese people and with European and American people, and even that was possible. I also had like a team that was tough when it came to find a good time. I work 9 to 5. Then we have Felingos, who is working shifts, and then we have Yoha, who is working completely irregular. So it was like quite the challenge to find times where we could also train, but scheduling was always like, just play it on Sunday. It will be possible somehow. And it worked out. So I will definitely keep the self-scheduling, and I think with the 2 weeks in mind, it will work for most teams. What I see is 19 matches being scheduled and played throughout 3 different time zones. And that is a huge success. I totally see that having a tournament like that with 4 rounds and each round being 2 weeks long creates some collision with vacations and other stuff. So not all your team members are always available at all times. I totally see and understand that. But this shows how important it is to get everyone on your team on the same level, so you can just replace someone who's on vacation. One of the core values of this tournament is that it's about team versus team and not player ABC versus player DEF. I personally don't want to interfere with teams that much, but there needs to be a certain ruling. So teams can't be like, yeah, 10 players and now they kick 8 players and recruit 8 new players and always the 2 same players are playing. Like, okay, we don't want this kind of nonsense. But I totally understand that over the course of 2 months, a team changes. And team politics are not always easy, and some teams are a little bit more dysfunctional than others. So to conclude all this, the next 4 Power to Balance tournament will be a team tournament again with 2v2 and 3v3 maps. Each round will be a best of 3, and teams schedule this best of 3 within 2 weeks. I know this is stressful for some people. It's also stressful for me, but it worked. It worked really well. So I plan on continuing this. So what changes? First, the map pool will be bigger. Second, I might make a difference regarding the Swiss system. I really like the Swiss system. It works really well for this game and this kind of tournament. But due to the number 10, we had some really one-sided matchups. So we only saw 2 O's in the first 3 rounds and just got some 2 1s in the last round where we got finally some really even games with. So this is kind of the weakness of it. Now we got some points addressed to the teams, and with those points in mind we can create more even matches for the first 2-3 rounds. Also regarding deserving things and rewards and stuff like that, a lot of teams didn't have invited me to the team chat of yours. Well, me and Ducky, because Ducky is sending out the dollars and I'm sending out the euros. Of course, Ducky could send the money to me and then I send it to everyone, but first he is sending the dollars and I don't want to convert it all the time, and it's also changing between times, so there's that. And I also think it's really cool if you get to know him. Like, he's a really cool guy. He's not the best player and not in the best team, but he donated some money, he donated some time. Definitely get some credit and some fame for it. I don't force you to take the money, but it's there, you earned it. And I know we had the holidays and everyone was busy, so here's a little reminder. Yeah, invite me to your team chat, explain me how you divide the money and who's getting what. The top teams already did that, but some of the top 8 teams who just earned a little bit of money didn't, so I'm still waiting. I don't mind if I keep it for a few months, but once the next tournament is coming over, I just accept it that it gets redonated, I guess. Also, another reward attached to the top 8 of the tournament is a Reddit flare. So if you use Reddit, give me your username. So before I go into the races, I just want to talk a little bit about the teams. Let's start with the tournament winner. Those 3 guys didn't really went under the radar of everyone. They kinda got heavily respected, but they also didn't really wanted to be in the spotlight of everyone. They kinda went with this Vini Vidi Vici style. Nobody can really pronounce their team name, so people went with XDD or, like Karas Legacy, Team Abomination, which I really like and will continue to call them from now on. Yeah, congratulations, just a clean win. Regarding the spotlight, the second place, the Nameless Ones, was a lot more interested in, being in the spotlight. They often streamed their matches. It was a really enjoyable experience. They trained a lot. They often streamed their training. They also loved talking about certain strategies and preparing and all that stuff. So they were really, in the community while beating everyone but Team Abomination. I really like those guys. We had great games, we had great chats. Also, their streams were great. Really pleasurable experience to watch them. And yeah, Mathematico also always rechecking certain things from my organization part, so everything is in order. Yeah, really great team, really nice guys, and they really deserve the second place. And they also redonated all their prize money into the next tournament. So thanks for that. The Bank Street Boys. For me, this team is a little bit the underdog team of the tournament, and they barely made it to the third place. They really worked their way up to it, only losing to Team Abomination, and they also needed some kind of little miracle to be third and not fourth. Things like the Nameless One needed to lose against Team Abomination, and then ISS had to lose, and Sun Eaters had to lose. And if any of those three things didn't happen, they would have been fourth. So yeah, congratulations on that one. You are the only other team that just lost to Team Abomination. So I hope we might see a little show match between you and the Nameless Ones. I would definitely watch that. Fourth place, Team Luong, with just a slightly bit of less up score and still 9 points, 3 wins to their name. They only lost to Team Panda, and to me it looked like they weren't really prepared for it. And in the later rounds, they played a lot better and were a strong opponent to match. Fifth place, 2x, 1 call, and a pure Erratica. Overall, really solid team. They lost versus strong opponents, they won versus weak opponents, and yeah, really deserve a place in the middle. The only big critic I have is that they never really started with 2x. Yeah, I think this was some kind of mind game, so their opponents didn't know what they're actually playing. Maybe this name is also some parody of some adult documentary. But yeah, let's go to the next team. Sun Eaters. Another name I really love. And this team came in strong. But after the loss versus the Nameless Ones, the morale went down rather quickly. It's also one of the two more dysfunctional teams, if you want to say so. For those who don't know, Aviziav and Koi are a really, really strong duo with a really aggressive dynamic. I watched their games and analyzed it together with Yoha. And when I watched those games, I really wanted to play with those guys. They really matched my kind of aggressive playstyle where I'm like, yeah, I go in, I have a fleet, deal with it, defend me. What you got? And then there was Kissblade in case of a 3v3. Now, Kissblade is not the most aggressive player, but I think he's a really versatile player. And he also shares a lot of opinions regarding balance and Advent with me. So I really value his thoughts a lot. But then, at round 3, where they had to face the Nameless Ones, Koi was late for like 2 hours and let everyone wait, and Ave didn't want to play with Kiss, the 2v2s. So they waited for Koi, and I totally believe everyone on this team was kinda tilted. And then they lost. And I totally believe the tilt was going up even more then. All 3 players get a lot of respect from me. not just for being good players, but also for being human beings that had to face hard decisions. And I really respect their decisions. Ave left the team because he doesn't want to play with Koi anymore and let him decide what to do with the team. Koi, who was also there to win this whole thing, was already really busy with real life stuff, and that's also one of the reasons why he was late that day, and decided to let Kiss organize the last round, find some new players, and schedule the match. And Kissblade was like, okay, Koi, you can focus on your exams. I find new players, I will train with them, and I don't give any points for free. A lot of people give them shit for not being the real Sun Eaters and being a 5-player team or even a 6-player team, because at some point Krim was listed, but that was a bit more on my part because I wanted to see how people react when there's a 4th player, even a symbolic one, in a roster of a team. But I really think they managed it really well. Sometimes real life is more important, sometimes you have to face hard decisions, and they did that, and I respect them. And because of that, I challenge them. Once I have 4 people ready, I want to play a show match, either on Ashrid or Titans of Sintar versus them. Next, Team Panda, the other Chinese team, going in strong with a really strong Found Invasion game, and then losing versus really strong opponents. They have the highest op score and are by far the best 3-point team. So yeah, take it like that. Sometimes you get unlucky and get strong opponents. I faced the same destiny. So here we are with my team now, Frontier Negotiators. Yeah, we faced strong opponents too and we lost. Our goal was basically getting 6 points and be somewhere in the middle, hopefully 4th or something. But now we barely made it to the top 8. To be honest, we didn't really train that much after the first round. Really interesting fun fact about this team is that it has the player which was building the most Titans and also lost them. That player is me. Next team, I'd Sin for that Solar Empire. Well, every time someone wins, someone else has to lose, and this is what happened to I'd Sin for that Solar Empire. And yeah, it's part of the game, it's part of the tournament. They have the right will, but everyone else was stronger than them, so they didn't make it in the top 8. But I hope they will join the next tournament too. It's really fun playing versus them. We had, for me personally, the best game of the whole tournament versus them. That was this Razor's Edge game, where also Yorha was really carrying me through the Crossfire game and then also dedicating a lot of power in this Razor's Edge game. I can't say much anymore. Thanks for joining, and I hope we see you next time. The other dysfunctional team of the tournament with, yeah, similar story if you want to say so. Silas was going to Japan and couldn't play, so it was Pax and Kabian, and Kabian wasn't able to recruit a new player, and Pax was also busy with real life stuff, so yeah, the last match couldn't be played, so they lost that one. But they said they rescheduled the match, so I might get some replay here, I might get some caster interested in casting it, and we get to see a show match between ISS and Aitzin for that Solar Empire. So, last but not least, the races and the balance issues. Let's talk. Regarding the race balance, Wasabi was the most picked race and Tech was the least picked race. And I also believe no one played Tech Enclave and everyone went with Primacy and the Pirates. Regarding the other sub-factions, it was quite even. Sometimes people switched their sub-faction, some people even switched the race. When it came to switching the race, we saw a lot of people switch to or from Vasari to one of the other factions. It was never like, yeah, I play Tech, now I play Advent. I think the Nameless ones did that once, where they switched to double Tech and Advent for the last game, just to get a bit more beefy economy, and then they lost to the double Vulkuras rush. But other than that, it was either Vasari or one of the other races, if a player switched. So, what is OP? What's not OP? Well, first we had two patches. In the first patch, everyone was like, yeah, raids are OP, so Vasari Alliance is OP, and pirates are OP, so Tech Primacy is OP, and those things are allowed in the tournament. And in some games, pirates were really strong, in some games, they were not. Regarding the raids, they never were really that strong. It was always either a strategic maneuver or just something to finish them off faster. There was not a single game where it was like, yeah, now we reach the 30-minute mark, now we get raids all the time, left and right. And I think that's good. I think the balance was really good for those kind of maps, kind of games, kind of matchups. After the patch, we also saw less Vasari, a lot less Vasari. It was like Tech got such a huge upgrade in the early game that they are now able to compete with the other races on those small maps. So people who felt confident to survive now on Tech played that instead of Vasari. But this was still the minority. Most people stick to their race and just changed the sub-faction from time to time. Regarding what's too strong, what's OP, there's only one thing I can really think of, and that is the phase missile swarm from the Vulkuras. This is really devastating and dictated a lot of the games. Last but not least, there was the discussion about diplomatic options. So far we haven't seen any choke point being defended with a double starbase. We've seen barely any starbases in those games. What we instead saw was a lot of feed, especially on exotics. Like, the most common thing you do as an Advent is, hey, I have this Antvar, I give it to my Tech Primacy friend so we can build a Marza or some pirates. And this is so deep into the game that it happened every single time. So I think it would be a lot more interesting if this would have been forbidden, but it would also discourage team strategies. So I'm not sure how I think about it, but I totally believe I make myself less liked if I say, hey, we stop diplomatic actions on the next tournament, feeding is not allowed anymore, get your eco up on yourself. So yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is feeding a problem? Is feeding strong? Is feeding just a good strategic tool to enable more team play across the board? I'm not sure. I think it would be exciting to see how games play out if this wasn't allowed. But I can totally understand if people say, yeah, this is a core part of the game, it was always there and it will always be important. So, that was 4Power 2 Balance 2024 edition. What comes next? Show matches. I have teams that enjoy playing against each other. I have casters that enjoy casting the maps, the games, the matchups, and I have spectators that enjoy watching those games. So why stop here? We already have a lot of good, high quality matches from practice games. One of those games is already casted, and some others might come. I will upload it this month, and then there are also a lot of teams who are thirsty to play more matches, and I really hope they find each other and schedule something, and I hope I will be part of it. But for now, my team was busy the last days and not only playing Power Exile but also enjoying the holidays and all that stuff. So I hope I get to play a little bit more of high-end Sins of a Solar Empire 2 too, and not just watch and organize it. I also hope that people will try out the maps that I have planned for the next tournament. The maps are Hammerfall, Shuriken, and Maelstrom. So, what else needs to be done? Well, a little reminder regarding the prize money and the Reddit flare. Invite me to your team chat and we figure things out. And then we also have to update the website because right now it's more for a single tournament and not for tracking several ones. I know the website is a little bit of an ugly duckling, if you want to say so. Most people follow the Discord or the Reddit posts to stay updated, and that's totally fine, that's totally cool. But I think having an official website is really adding some benefits to the tournament. It just needs a little bit of care. After that is done, I will organize the next For Power to Balance tournament with the new maps, with the known schedule and the best of threes. And teams can participate once again and fight for their honor and a little bit of prize money. For now, I would expect this in April or May, because first of all, I have to do some real life stuff too. I need to move out, find a new home. And second, I think having 2 or 3 tournaments each year is totally enough. So I think having 2.5 months of playing and scheduling and registering with 2.5 months of free time is just the right cycle. After all, this was quite stressful for me because I was almost single-handedly organizing all that stuff. I got a lot of support from players and the casters, of course, so I'm happy I didn't have to do everything myself. But yeah, it was quite stressful. And to keep the quality of the tournament, I want to do that when I have a time in my life where I have the freedom to dedicate myself towards it. So that was it. Quite the journey, quite the long video podcast style of thing here. I hope you enjoyed all that content, and I can't thank the casters and the players enough to make all this possible. After all, this is still my personal YouTube channel, which I just use to upload the replays and cast and all that stuff. So don't expect me to just dedicate it completely towards Sins of Solar Empire. I will continue on making content. I will upload the show matches. I will upload a map guide when I find the time to make one. But I might also upload some Path of Exile or some Dota 2 kind of content if I feel like it. So, yeah, thanks for joining, thanks for listening, and I hope I see you next time.